Hey guys, welcome back. A couple of questions always come up through emails, so I'm going to give you an idea now. So if you're confused about the 12 points, remember, I'm not going to break down the math, but when you go to court and you have to testify in court about the mathematical probability of this being a match, we know based on the limited research that 12 points, it's like the chances of us being wrong are like 0.00001 if we do 12 points. I'm going to give you an example of what I mean by points. An inked print. So when we take a suspect into custody, we think they're the suspect for a lot of reasons. We're going to take their print. That's an inked print. Remember, when we talk about indirect evidence and circumstantial evidence, we have the suspect print. We're also going to have a latent print from a gun. So this is the latent print that we took from a gun. Remember, with circumstantial evidence, we're trying to tie the two people together, the person to the gun. So what we do as a forensic scientist, they're going to go in here and they're going to look for identifying characteristics. So on this latent print, they're going to start and go, wow, we found this point. Wow, we found this point. Now remember, every scientist can find 12 different characteristics. They don't have to be the same. Your fingerprint is so unique, we could probably find 20 or 30 with a good print. After we find 12 prints on that print from the gun, we go back to our suspect. If we find those same 12, mathematically, we're never going to be wrong. Where we get into trouble in court is we have a partial print on a gun. The scientist can only find 6 characteristics. With 6 characteristics, we might find 6 on the print, but 6 mathematically we could be wrong. Because of the smaller you go, if we only got 2 points of characteristics, the chances of that being the person, we can't testify in court that we are certain that that person did the crime. As a forensic scientist, if I have 12 points, I can testify in court, I am almost 99% certain that the suspect matches that print. Here's another thing to keep in mind, and departments get beat up across the nation, and small departments do it a lot. It's expensive to have scientists do this. You always remember this if you get into the field and you have a case. If you're trying to put somebody in prison for years and years, make sure you do your job. When I have a scientist do this, if it comes back a match, I'm going to give that print to another independent lab that has no idea I did that. I want 2 labs telling me that they both came up with a match. Departments across the country, because they're cheap, they'll do 1. If you go to court and say only one lab did this, you're going to look pretty bad in court. At least 2. Now remember, the defense attorney is going to take this and go to their own lab and have it done. But you as a prosecution should do at least 2. Remember this. Why did we do 12? Talk to the mathematicians. I'm sure if we went to 13, 14, it'd even help us out. But they said, we can stop at 12. If you can find 12 characteristics on a print, we're pretty certain. Enough said. Next thing I want to talk about is how we document evidence, because this comes up a lot. Remember Locard's principle of exchange. You're always going to be wearing gloves. I don't want anything to contaminate my crime scene. We package things in law enforcement because we know cops tend to be dumb. I get it. So we do it in a way that's very easy for them. Most of what we impound will be in paper bags, whether it's clothing. And again, you have to be able to identify what type of evidence goes in what package. We have envelopes. The majority of what I've impounded in all the years I've did it was in envelopes, okay? There's times that we're going to be putting it in, like if we have cartridges and ballistics in cardboard boxes. This is the one that comes up in the news a lot, and I get questioned a lot. This is an actually purchased, and they're very expensive, about $250 a piece. This is a rape kit. So when you hear in the news all the time about all these rape kits that we took and we haven't sent them out to labs, this is the kit. What is a kit? Well, the cop, again, or detective, opens this up. Everything with gloves. It's very sanitary. We open it up, and inside of that will be at least 13 different envelopes that we do specific things. For instance, I'm going to be having an envelope. I have a suspect in custody. I need to compare the hair that we found on the scene on the victim with the suspect. So what am I going to do? Tells me. I'm going to go to the suspect and I'm going to pull out hair from their head. And again, this is sometimes fun, because if you know it's the bad guy, you like to have, anyway. You're going to go to the person and say, I need 12 hairs from your head by the roots. If they say, I'm not doing it, I do it. And I've done this many times. Remember, you have court orders. You have the right to do this. We'll talk about that in another class. From their head, pulling out 12. I take the 12, I put them in, I seal it. Doesn't stop there. We do the same thing with the pubic hair. They're naked in front of me. I say I need 15 pubic hairs pulled out from your area. If you do it, I'll let you. And I'm going to watch. Remember, when you go to court, you're going to be testifying. Remember at the beginning, I have to testify that what I'm opening in the courtroom was pubic hair that I watch come right from them. Same thing with blood. I watch the nurse pull the blood. So they're going to pull 15 out by the root. Now remember, that's very methodical. Before we do that, we're going to have them comb through. So we'll have envelopes that comb through, because what are we looking, when we're combing through the pubic area, we have envelopes for that too. Here it is, pubic hair. I'll actually hold an envelope under that. They're combing through because we're hoping to get the victim's hair inside that pubic hair. I seal that up. These are the 15 pulled out. If they don't, I grab them, and I've done it. I reach in, when I grab 20 or 30. Seal them, okay? We're doing swabs for DNA. We're doing all kinds of stuff. We're doing samples of blood. No, I don't pull the blood. A nurse does it, she'll sign it, but I have to testify that I was sitting there watching the nurse pull it out of their arm. And again, if they don't volunteer, we're holding them down with 20 corrections officers. I shouldn't really say that in today's day and age, but there's times we have to get evidence, and if we have to, and we're signing for it. The key to this lecture is this. When I go to court, I have to show that it was not tampered with. So let's just pick this one. Whatever it was that I impounded at the crime scene, maybe this was important. I put it in this envelope. These envelopes are designed that they seal very good, but that's not enough. You're going to be documenting on here. You're going to be putting all the information describing what you have in here. First and foremost is the safety of the CSI and the forensic scientist. Do not put something in here like a needle that's going to poke them. They're going to look and see what you got here. But after you seal it, we have all these different fancy types of tapes. Okay, this is called forensic tape. It's designed that if you try to open it, it's impossible. So what you do is you're going to come across everywhere on this. I'm going to put these everywhere across the top of this where it needs to be opened. That's not enough. When it's all said and done, you're going to come back here and you're going to write across this. Okay? You're going to write across it, because when you get to court, when I'm sitting on the stand and the prosecutor goes, Detective Swanson, can you look at that evidence? You have something there. Has that envelope been tampered with? Think about what you would have to do if you tamper with this. You would have to methodically with the razor blade and then put it all back. It's very difficult with my initials. What do we do for initials? Very simple. Most departments. As you can see, I have D3761. 3761 is your personnel number. Here in Cedar City, they might have only hired 200 cops in the history of Cedar City. If your personnel number is 182, because you were the 182nd person hired by Cedar, that is your personnel number. That's mine. I was the 3,761st in Vegas. And then you put your initials. For me, I would put D.S., Daniel Swanson. Everything that I impounded in my 20 plus careers had that on there. When a prosecutor goes and wants to see, even say you forgot to put your name on here, there's only one 3761 on the department. Very easy. Even when I retire, they will never go back. There will never be one. This is how you document. When we talked about chain of custody, this is how you document chain of custody. When I impound it into the evidence vault, it will not be touched. If it's touched by somebody else, like a CSI person, they have to document. If this was cocaine and I wanted them to test for cocaine, they would go to the vault, take it out. Remember, I impounded it. They would pull the cocaine out in their lab, test it. When they put the cocaine back, they would come to the bottom, open it with a razor blade, and then they would reseal it the same way I did. And then they put their initials, the lab person. So if I get on the stand and say this was cocaine, and the prosecutor goes, Detective Swanson, that cocaine, has that envelope been tampered with? Yes, it has. He would then have to put the lab technician on the stand to say, I took the evidence from the lab. It was not contaminated. It was not opened. Swanson, it was never broken. I broke it, tested it, put it back. They put me back on the stand. See how this is? We have to have everybody on the stand. And there's times that there will be 3 or 4 independent labs that test that. So you might have places all over here that it was open. Chain of custody is extremely important. If we can show, and this is a big, big problem with cops, as a detective, If I walk into a room and I can see evidence on a table, and the detective is in a crime scene and he's dealing with this evidence and he's gone, let's just say he went to the bathroom to take a shit. If he left that table with that evidence on that table, a defense attorney could say, well, did something happen while you were using the bathroom? You never let that evidence leave your sight until you put it in an envelope and deposit it. You see my point? Otherwise, you're going to have to put your integrity on the line and lie about it and say it never left my sight. Do your job. Impound it correctly, have it never leave your sight, and then you don't have to worry about it. The nice thing is, Supreme Court says, once it get deposited into the evidence custodian in the vault, we don't have to worry about it. There's no way we could put a guard on evidence 24/7. Supreme Court says if it's been properly disposed of in an evidence custodian vault, we don't have to account for what happened while it's there. Now, a lot of you are saying, could a crooked cop sneak in there? Sure. I'm not going to even go into that. But at this point, do it properly, and you'll do your job.